Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab, and I'm here with my cousin and co-host,
Dylan.
And today we are talking about a movie that, if I really had to gun to my head, the lives of everyone I love put on the line, I think I might call this my favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the movie that I have chosen is Mean Girls, starring. Go ahead, Dylan.
Do you want me to just say Lindsay Lohan, or do you want me to go down the whole cast? Because there's a lot of names in this movie.
I feel like just the top two are the most important.
Lindsay Lohan and, of course, Tim Meadows.
I was really hoping you were going to say someone ridiculous, and I'm so glad you did. I feel like if you are between the ages of 28 and 38, 28 and 38 is what I'll say. You know this movie, you've seen this movie multiple times, you reference this movie on a fairly regular basis. And if you're outside of that age range, you may be tertiarily familiar with it. You may have heard a line or two. Hopefully you've seen it. But generally, I think this is the movie that really connected our generation.
I think this movie took on much more of a life than it was ever expected to. I think it's become a cult classic. I think it's had a direct-to-video sequel, and it just had, the musical remake that came out this year.
And a Broadway musical.
Yeah, in 2017, it had the Broadway musical. And I think what's crazy, and it's one of those make you feel old moments, Gab, is that this movie is 20 years old.
I know. I know.
Which means I'm at least 25 now.
Yeah. Both of us. Did I tell you about the woman in one of my classes that she looked at me and I tried to correct her on something, and she was like, I'm twice your age. I am twice your age. And she was definitely in her 40s. And she kept saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. And finally I went, oh, I didn't realize you were 64. And she was like, I'm not 64. And I was like, well, I'm not 22. So what the fuck? And then I was like,
you should have just hit her with a boo, you whore.
I know. I want to, but I can't when I'm at work.
I will say, and maybe it's something to talk about the opinions, this may be the most quotable movie ever made.
Of all time. It's just fucking so good.
Yeah,
all right, tell the people what this movie is about, Dylan. Although I'll say this, I think if you haven't seen this movie, The Chair.
Also, it is on Hulu, so you can go watch it there.
Yeah, or else Chair.
Straight to jail.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Mean Girls, it's a 2004 movie starring Lindsay Lohan, and it's about Katie, who is coming from Africa. She's been homeschooled her whole life, and she is now thrust into the world of high school mean girls and fitting in with the meanest but top clique in the school and trying to fit in with friends and remain herself. Not my best.
Yeah.
Not my best.
It could have been better. You could have tightened it up a little bit.
I got to get more succinct. IMDb, Katie Heron is a hit with the plastics, the A-list girl clique at her new school, until she makes the mistake of falling for Aaron Samuels, the ex-boyfriend of Alpha Plastic Regina George.
What was your high school like? Were there a lot of cliques? Were there popular kids?
I would say it was more like a pyramid where I feel like there were levels. I don't feel like there was, you have the straight up graph of like the lunch tables, and it's very conveniently broken down into lunch tables of, JV jocks, the plastics, the goth kids, like stuff like that.
The art freaks. Yeah.
Yes. Whereas I feel like at my school it was like, there were levels of coolness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I graduated in a really, really big school. So there are some kids I graduated with that I never met. And so it was too big to have like popular groups, although there were definitely like kids that were more popular than others. But like, I think there were probably like 4 tiers, right? Like the really popular kids, like the jocks and whatnot. And then like the level under that was me and my friends. And then under that was like the not cool people. And then under that was like the very unfortunate people.
I was firmly in the not cool camp. I wasn't in the least cool, but I was in the not cool.
Yeah. Makes sense. Did you win any like school superlatives?
I did not, nor do I think I would have really wanted to. I think if I was going to compare myself to anybody from this movie, it would probably be Janice, where I was like, I am too cool for all this. I obviously I wasn't like the goth, but I was very, I think I've said it before, where I was very contrarian and I was like, oh, everybody likes, whatever the recent music is. I only listen to music from the 60s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm glad you've grown out of that.
yeah, somewhat.
Yeah.
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 I do
I
feel like now I
won.
hear like I'm like, oh, what's this new Fallout Boy? Those new kids on the block, they're pretty good.
You're like finally catching up to the 90s and early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That
like,
makes
what's all this
sense.
panic about the disco? They're interesting.
This is great. I won most likely to become famous. Obviously that happened because here I am on my podcast. And I won best friends. Me and my friend Nikki won best friends. Um, so I was like not cool. I was just very specific. Like I was the star of all the plays, you know what I mean? So people knew me as like that, and it didn't necessarily make me cool, but I was friends with everybody. I had friends in every group. So I was
Okay.
sort of like kind of in the middle. Everyone was cool with me. I didn't have beef with anybody.
Which I think, it's realistic for a lot of people. As much as there are high school cliques, it's not like people don't interact with others outside of those cliques ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this. Do you still interact with any people from high school on the internet outside of like your friends? I mean, you married one of them, right? Like,
I married somebody from high school. I hang out with more people from high school than I do from college.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you stalk any of them on the internet that you don't talk to, but that you're just like interested in?
No.
Okay,
Um,
that's probably healthy.
there's I will say there's like a once in a while where I feel like as a group, like we'll be like, wonder what happened to those people? And then you look it up and you're like, nothing that much more interesting than what happened to us, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny? I've started to forget people's names. And you think about how often, like in high school, you kind of always refer, I mean, at least for us, I don't know about other places. So some people graduate with, 12 kids, but we always referred to people by their first and last name, right? It's like because there were so many Nicks. So it was like Nick who, Nick da da da, Nick da da da, Nick da da, like which Nick. And now I can picture some of these people in my head, and I'm like, but what the fuck was their name? Like it was, and then I'm like having a hard time describing it to someone where I could be like, that guy, he what, like it was that long ago.
You ever run
Um,
into people from high school still?
Not as much as you would think. I mean, I guess not really. I live in one of the biggest cities in the world, so no.
Yeah.
Um, I have had some interactions with people where when I tell them I went to Sachem, they're like, "Oh, do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "That kind of sounds familiar." I haven't necessarily run into anybody though.
When anybody says that, you just gotta say yes. I just always hit them with, oh, that old bastard, of course. So and so, that son of a bitch.
Have you? Do you?
Occasionally. And
How far do you live now?
20 minutes. Not
Okay.
crazy
Okay.
far.
Yeah.
But what does happen usually is, you notice and there's two courses of action. If you both notice each other, it's either just a eye contact, then we both decide no, and we
We
just
don't have
dodge
to do
it,
this. Yeah.
or one of the parties makes a decision that we are going to have an awkward 5-minute conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
parties makes
Yeah.
a decision that we're going to go, hey,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Oh. You know what's really crazy? We're getting so old now. Like it used to be when you were in college, if you saw someone you knew them from high school, right? Then it was if you saw someone in the real world, you either knew them from college or high school. Now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, was it a job? Is it from this? Do I know you for like,
You were
and
in my
I am
proctologist's
just
office. That's what it was.
I'm like, I look at people and I'm like, hey, and I have no idea where I know them from. Corey, however, grew up in the Bronx. We live in Manhattan. Corey has run into people that he like went to second grade with. And I'm like, what?
And recognize them?
Yeah.
That's
Because I guess she
that's
went to
more
second grade
impressive.
all the way through, high
Oh,
school. And
yeah,
then he
fair
went to
enough.
college in the Bronx too. So it's like, but anyway, I digress. Dylan, what do we do now? Taglines.
Yeah, you avoided them as long as you could, but I've got a
Yeah.
lot of taglines for you, and they're all fine.
Okay.
Welcome to Girl World. Girl World.
Yeah, good luck saying that.
Welcome to Gerwer.
oh, oh my God. I'm sorry. There was something very important I wanted to say. I just want to shout out my friend Danny because I thought this was hilarious. Danny and I were talking the other day about keeping track of people and just like looking at people online just to see like what they're doing, like the people that you don't talk to.
Okay.
And Danny says she calls it keeping track of all of her Sims, which I thought was really
Was it
funny.
my way of speaking that made you think of Sims? Was it the
Yes, yes. It was literally you going wah wah that I was like Sims. That's right.
This next one might have been a better tagline for our last episode. Survival of the Ruthless.
Ah,
Mean, meaner, meanest.
okay.
So fetch.
Ugh, no.
Watch your back.
Yeah.
They're coming.
Mm,
This summer, be part of the in crowd.
mm.
Only the strong survive.
No, I don't hate that.
Come on, that was a lot of taglines, and while I appreciate the attempt at I respect a tagline that's like, we're gonna nail this thing in like 5 fucking words. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, it's like name that tune when you're like, I can name that tune in 3 notes, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
snap.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of these hit for me.
Yeah, no, but this movie again, like, thank God this movie is so iconic. It doesn't need a tagline. It needs nothing.
Yeah, I think this movie, like we said, it carried on to have a life of its own. But if we're gonna talk about it, let's talk about it. Let's get into opinion time.
In this critic's opinion,
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I remember this movie came out in, you said 2004, right? So I was 12 years old.
Correct.
And my friend Nikki, her brother, who was significantly older than us, he's like 8 years older than us, wanted to take us to go see it. And my mom said no, because she thought it was going to be inappropriate. And I begged and pleaded and cried. I was like, please, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. She finally let me go. We saw this in the movie theaters and it changed my life. Because I think even at 12 years old, for the first time, it made me understand that girl, as they call it in the movie, girl on girl crime was not only unique to my life. The you're my friend, but you're jealous of me when good things happen, but also you want me to succeed, but not as much as you. And these rules about what you needed to wear and how you had to look, and you had to fit in, and all of these things that really felt at the time like they were only things that I was dealing with. And being in that universe of like, oh my God, this is the same. And sort of going through that roller coaster of like, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we can all support each other and, whatever. It was a really, really pivotal moment in my young adulthood. And it's funny because now, even as a, 32-year-old, I feel like I have had to explain to Corey on multiple occasions what women are like to each other, because he doesn't understand when I say that, my friend is, if something happened to me, if I achieved something, I may not hear from a certain friend about it, right? I may not get like, oh, congrats, I saw you, blah, 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 whatever. And it's because women have a very hard time being happy for each other. Or, I can think of a million examples, but I think men in particular don't really understand that, like, it's always like this for girls. And it's very interesting and universal.
I think societally, we are less as men made to compete with each other as women are.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting rewatching it this time is, you know what? Mean Girls is very political. And it reminded me more this time, obviously, than any other time, because this wouldn't have existed back in 2004. A little bit of Game of Thrones. Regina George is clearly this House Lannister, where she is this cunning strategist for evil, and you have her hand of the king is Gretchen, and Katie is this Jon Snow type who is interfering and usurping this leadership role. And besides the violence, it's very, very political. It's always characters are trying to spin things. You know what I mean? Like, perfect example,
Yeah.
Regina getting the holes cut in her shirt, and she knows she has the rep to be able to just say, well, I'm gonna fucking rock it, and everybody else is gonna wish they were me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really just takes until they have gotten through to Gretchen that they are able to break that down at all, even.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that's a brilliant observation.
Yeah, and the other thing I feel like I've noticed more this time is I never realized Janice, and Janice calls herself a mean girl at one point, but Janice is not really a good guy at all. Like
No.
Janice is sort of just the foil to Regina, where they're each trying to pull Katie in a certain direction, and by the end, Katie is able to be herself.
Janice is not the good guy. I think what's really interesting too is you sort of see this character arc with Janice where she's obsessed with Regina and obsessed with getting revenge for something that happened a very long time ago. And you sort of see Regina like not really give a shit about her or like acknowledge her. It's very like I've already this she's so beneath me. And I think it just like feeds into this sort of this person is such a narcissist that they don't even really see you and you are so obsessed with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like maybe that doesn't make sense.
No, it makes sense because for Regina, she has elevated herself to this, like I said, queen role where, Game of Thrones again, I'm thinking of. And Janice is this person who has been exorcised from the kingdom, who was once her equal, who was shamed in front of everyone. Of course, she's going to loom heavily in Janice's mind, but it's the fact that Janice then there's no reason that Janice couldn't be the one to try and, she suggests stealing the burn book. Janice, you steal the fucking burn book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She instead leads
Yeah.
Katie down this path of, well, I hate Regina. You should hate Regina too. And it's
Yeah.
only, in the end, things only get better for all of them once they sort of just give up on the cliques they existed in and sort of just mature, which, is really, that's life as well. That's like eventually we get more mature and the things that really matter to you in high school, I feel like we talked about this before, don't mean a damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I use this example all the time when I talk to like clients about certain things. Like, remember what a big deal the prom? Maybe it wasn't for you, but like, I just remember like we were at an age where Facebook was like pretty popular. And so after you got a Facebook account, or after, once prom dress started, season started, you would buy your dress and you had to put a picture of it in the Facebook group so that no other girl bought the same dress as you. And if you liked a dress, you had to go and look through the group and make sure nobody else had it. And I think back now and I'm like, I don't even remember the prom. I don't even think I had that much fun. Like it just these things they feel like such a big deal at the time. And I think Janice is the type of character who is 32 years old and is still thinking about the prom, you know?
Oh no, I think absolutely not. I do think that, these shenanigans that happen in this movie are her tool to be like, I'm fully done with that by now.
No, no,
And
no. I don't mean literally. I just mean in the sense that she's still thinking about that pool party in eighth grade, even though they're in high school now. It's like she's still thinking about it and no one else is thinking about it.
yes, I get when it's still in the school environment that she was still thinking about it. And you could say nobody else was thinking about it, but Damien, who's her friend, knows every time that like gets mentioned, he knows like, no, it was a big deal at the time and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
very good friend. And I do feel like what I noticed in this movie, obviously peer pressure is a big deal. Who would you say, if you had to name some characters who seem to be the happiest, who would you say?
Karen.
Okay, Karen's a good example. Not what I'm going for here, but Karen's a good example. Who else comes to mind? Think
Kevin
less.
Napor.
Okay, great answer. The people who came to my mind were Kevin, Aaron, and Damien.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, what makes these people the happiest is the fact that they're the only people who are already okay with themselves. And I think that applies to Karen somewhat too. You're not stupid, Karen. Actually, I am. Like, Karen knows who she is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's a major part of high school too. It's the characters who have already figured out who they are, who are already happy and not trying to be something else.
How old were you when you think you figured that out?
I don't know. I mean, in many ways, I still think like there are a lot of parts of my personality that are the same as when I was in high school, but it's just you mature in what things you care about outside of yourself. You know what I mean? I guess I would say it's probably during or after college.
Yeah.
Once you're working in the real world, it's pretty hard to care about shit. You know what I mean? That like doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Kevin Napor, though, that dude's the man.
Oh my God. When that rap started, every word, like it flooded me. It's so good.
He does it so damn well. And he's so confident. It's another great moment from him. I don't remember. I think it's Gretchen apparently off screen tells Kevin that Katie has a crush on him. And at Katie's party, he goes up to Katie and he's like, not for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a boss. That Kevin was
so
like,
good.
yeah, I'm not concerned with like, oh yeah, sure, it would make me cooler to date you, but I don't give a shit about that.
He goes, I only date women of color.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I love it. I think upon this watch, because you have to understand, I've seen this movie maybe over 1,000 times. Like I used to just put it on in the background and play it over and over and over.
I hadn't watched
Um,
this in a long time because I think that was my feeling too. That it's one of those movies that's been played so much that like you're almost tired of it by this point.
yeah, I would I would bet that you are not tired of it, not as tired of it as you thought. I one thing that did really stick out to me upon this watch was how casually they just refer to Africa like it's not a gigantic continent. Like there is no wait, I'm from Zimbabwe or anything. It's just Africa.
Well, I think that's another one of those things, for the teachers, it doesn't make sense. Like I do love Miss Norbury greeting the wrong student from Africa,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
she's not coming
Hilarious.
in. Is it supposed to be the first day of school or is it in the middle of the school year she's coming in? I don't remember.
First day of school.
Okay. Otherwise, I was going to say, how's she making that mistake? But okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Um, yeah, you know what? That seems like a high school thing to do. Like, my school did not have a lot of people who were people of color in it when I was in my senior year. And
Mhm.
there were people asking, like, if you're asking a person of color where they're from, it- you're not asking like what town they're from because we were all stupider at the time because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
this
yeah.
assumption. Um, you know what I noticed about the movie too? And I feel like I talked about it with Ruthless People, that we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine and Ruthless People and the number of jokes you're throwing and how many jokes are landing. This movie is throwing so many jokes and they're like all landing. You know what I
Every
mean?
single one.
I was
Every one.
it was in like the first half hour and I was like, holy crap. All these iconic quotes are just from the first half of the movie.
Yeah. And it just keeps going and going and going. It's so good. I used to say, and I'm rusty, right? But like a lot of it came back to me that I could like recite this movie, like from the opening line all the way through. It is every line is a quote, and it's just become so ingrained in like our generation and our vernacular to throw things around. Like obviously, no one is walking around saying it's so fetch. Like that died a long time ago after the movie, like kind of lost a little bit of popularity. But things like how many times are you like say crack again? Like if somebody says crack, I'm like say crack again. There's just so many of these like little one-liners that are so good.
The ones that I
God,
wrote down that immediately come to my mind are that's why her hair is so big, it's full of secrets. One time she
yep.
punched me in the face. It was awesome. You're really pretty. Thank you. So you agree. You think you're really pretty. On Wednesdays we were pink. Oh my God, Danny DeVito, I love your work. These are all within like 10 minutes of each other. And these are all I've
Yes.
heard them outside of this movie many times.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
I do
so
also
good.
like I never
So
noticed
fucking good.
before how what's up with school buses in this movie, but on the first day she almost gets hit by the school bus, which obviously
Yep.
is foreshadowing. And another
Foreshadowing.
moment of foreshadowing is when she first sees Aaron, she talks about her crush on Aaron hit her like a big yellow school bus and I'm like, "Oh, ooh."
Yeah.
Um, you know what I noticed also this time? How much people in small roles do that make it great in this movie. Amy
Yeah.
Poehler does a lot with a little.
Yep.
Tim Meadows is so good as the principal with just the straightest line reads.
It's so good. One of my favorite lines is, "Oh hell no, I did not leave the South Side for this."
Yes, I had that written down. um, my carpal tunnel came back. You win.
I win.
Oh, more for you, Glen Coco. You go, Glen Coco. That
Oh, of
that name,
course.
I've heard that name 1,000 times.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And that's to a point where it's like, that word that people have made up to imply that you're like outdated from the 2000s. I
Yeah,
think chuggy is the word.
I have no idea.
Have you not heard that word?
No.
So I don't know exactly like how to describe it, but my understanding of the word chuggy is that it implies that you're like outdated in like a live, laugh, love like type of way where it was like popular in 2004, 2005, and now it's like weird and outdated. Anyway, the line "You go, Glen Coco" has been used so much that it's now considered chuggy.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. I've heard that one a million
Oh,
times.
oh my God. You know what? Oh my God. I was telling you about this offline. I'm not going to repeat it for the whole world to hear, but I was hearing a story recently from someone who was drinking an obscene amount and said that the homeowners who of the place that she was at, said, I don't want you to drink in the house. If you're going to drink, go to a park. And I said, really? Because typically
That's
they
normally
say,
the
'cause if you're
opposite.
all right, if you're going to drink, I'd rather you do it in the house.
Oh, you girls, you keep me young.
I love you so much. You need anything? Some snacks, a condom? Let me know.
Other things, I just felt like I was writing down a quote every 2 minutes that I've heard so many times outside of this movie. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Word vomit, which I don't think was a thing before this, and I've heard it
Mhm.
before. Uh, it's like I have ESPN or something.
Yep, yep.
You know, it's a line that cracked me up because I didn't remember it. I gave him everything. I was half a virgin when I met him.
Yes. Yeah,
I
yeah,
also,
yeah.
I don't know why, but there's something about Karen's pronunciation of "Do you want to go to Taco Bell?" that I love.
Yes. It's like it's the emphasis on Bell.
It's like she says bell like it's ringing.
Yeah.
And then Regina hitting her with, "God, Karen, you're so stupid. I can't go to Taco Bell." Like,
Oh my God. The other day, I am dead fucking serious, Dylan. A client of mine asked me, is butter a carb? And I was like, surely she's quoting this movie, right? Like, and that was before we watched it too. I was just like, everyone knows butter's not a carb. Everyone's seen this movie.
that's when you start giving her the Caltine bars.
Yeah. Oh God.
Um, you know, I feel like most of the jokes in this movie are all coming from dialogue from what's being said, but you know, it's a great moment in this movie of silence.
Hmm.
Them getting ready for the Halloween party. And I think it's the only time we see Regina's father is just the sadness on his face when he sees his daughter
Yes.
dressed up like I guess a Playboy bunny is what she's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 You know what? I feel like I was trying to notice more little things here. And another little thing I like, Aaron, who we've already explained is very sure of himself already. I think Regina says at one point, all he cares about is like
School and
school
his
and his
mom and
mom.
his friends.
Yeah, which, oh, what a piece of shit. But there's this really nice moment when he is at the party at Katie's and he sees this picture on the mantle of the plastics with Katie and he moves that aside and it starts the music, which has been like, I guess it's the score of the movie. I'm not really sure
Mhm.
if it is. I don't think it is actually. But the music starts and we see this picture of her on an elephant in Africa. And you just see him smiling because he clearly likes the real Katie, the one who
Yeah.
has been fading away as she's becoming more and more plastic as her hair changes, as her outfits change. Like she's slowly transforming like the worst
Yeah.
transformer in the world, which I would love to see high school transformers though, where they're all bitches.
Sure.
Like it should have no action at all. It should just be very concerned with the high school. Like, oh my God, you transform into a Volkswagen? Ew. Like that's what I want this to be.
Yeah.
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 That's my sequel idea. Transformers Mean Girls.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
a crossover, not a sequel, but okay.
Uh, Shut up.
So, um, yeah, I don't even like, I feel overwhelmed. I don't even know where to go about this movie. It's just like, I think it does a really good job of showing a lot of honesty. It's not like a fantastical high school universe.
No, it's fairly
Even
realistic.
though it's very realistic. It maybe exaggerates a little bit, but it's very realistic. And the adults are all imperfect and the kids are all, you know, just it just feels real.
Let me ask you something. Is there any moment where you felt bad for Regina George?
I mean, it was pretty brutal when she got hit by that bus. But otherwise, no, not really.
There was one moment in this where I felt bad for her because it doesn't seem like Regina enjoys doing all of these things. It just feels like she has to maintain her status. And there's a moment where her status has really been stripped from her. And it's when they are pointing at first they're at the table and she's wearing sweatpants and she's not supposed to be. So they're
Mhm.
saying that she can't sit with them. And she has this moment where she says, these sweatpants are all that fits me right now. And it's the one moment where
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, she's really, this is her starting to fall from grace. And
yeah,
that's when she like
yeah,
has to leave the table after she tells them the rules they've all followed strictly were just made up by her. And the other girls says, watch where you're going, fat ass. And you're like, yeah, Regina has fallen. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you feel you feel just a little bit bad for her, which
yeah. That's true.
it's important that she gets her comeuppance because she is an antagonist, but
Yeah,
Janice doesn't really get any comeuppance, and Janice is kind of a bad guy too. I guess Janice's only comeuppance is that who she thought she was her friend that she was manipulating also was kind of a dick to her. That's really
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. I feel like I was very distracted in that scene by Regina, like not really looking any different. Like they were like, watch where you're going, fat ass. But she was like not that, I don't know. Like I feel like they
I
didn't
don't
do
think so.
a great job.
Well, how different, she can't look drastically different either. I feel like maybe they put some kind of padding on her in some spot, but I think just
Yeah.
the point is that she doesn't even have to look different. Like she's concerned about
Yeah.
she needs to lose 3 pounds, and they're talking about their nail beds. You know what I mean? These are people
Yeah.
in high school. You notice every little thing. That's why you're concerned about. If you have one fucking pimple near your temple, which it's high school, every single one of you had pimples all over your fucking faces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I get it. Oh my God. I keep seeing more quotes. Let me say one of the quotes that I think is less talked about. Another great one from Tim Meadows. I ought to cancel your spring fling, but I'm not going to do that because we already paid the DJ.
Another one I love is, I will keep you here all night. We can only keep them here till 4.
I will keep you here till 4. He nails it every time. And I saw them saying in an interview that, like, I think it was Gretchen, Karen, and Katie, when they're in the principal's office, could not stop laughing at him. And
Yeah.
he even has that line. He's like, does this feel like a laughing matter? And like, because they legitimately could not stop laughing at the things that he was saying.
Yeah. He's incredible in this. I think he's one of the best adults. I also love Coach Carr, right? I mean,
Put the girls down, Coach Carr.
Step away, Coach Carr, step away from the underage girl.
That's what the way he just
So
runs
good.
away. Yes.
So great. Don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise? All right, everybody take some rubbers.
Chlamydia. K. Just to go really quickly, I want my pink shirt back. Iconic.
Yes. Yep.
I don't think my father, Gab,
The inventor of toaster strudel would be
would be
pleased to
pleased
hear
with
about
this.
this.
Yes. It's not my fault I've got a heavy flow and a wide set vagina.
Wait, we should play the game where you say the first half and I say the second half.
Oh, we used up too many. I'm sorry I called you a gap-toothed bitch.
It's not your fault you're so gap-toothed.
She doesn't even go here.
Do you even go here? No.
What does she say after?
And then she says, I just have a lot of feelings.
There it is.
I got
You
confused with
it.
the rainbows and smiles. Yeah.
This is the fertility boss of the Endobelly tribe. Does that mean anything to you?
Of the belly tribe. But you love Ladysmith Black Mambazo.
There's one more Kevin moment that I noticed too. Them showing up at the mathletes thing and him going, great turnout this year. And you see the crowd of like 10 people.
Yeah.
I also never noticed before that there's another Pack sibling in the mathletes. Trang Pak is very important. She's the one who made out with Coach Carr. She's very important.
Yeah.
And I guess it's her brother is in the mathletes.
Yeah. Very cool.
I feel like
All
we
right.
could keep going with our opinions, but it would just be me finding more facts to talk about, more quotes to talk about. So instead,
Yeah.
should we get to the facts?
Please.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
On the tomato meter, this has an 84%, an average rating of 6.9 out of 10, 184 fresh reviews, and 35 rotten, with an audience score of 66%, average score 3 out of 5. IMDb gave it a 7.1 out of 10. The budget was $17 million. It grossed $130 million. The critics' consensus: elevated by a brilliant screenplay and outstanding ensemble cast, Mean Girls finds fresh female-fronted humor in the high school experience. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars. In a wasteland of dumb movies about teenagers, Mean Girls is a smart and funny one. Richard Roper: it has a little bit of National Lampoon sensibility, kind of funny. I can't quite recommend it.
Ugh.
Ed Gonzalez from Slant Magazine: Mean Girls is slim pickings compared to Heathers and Donnie Darko, but it makes mincemeat out of 13 going on 30.
I totally disagree.
I also just would never sure, I get Heathers Heathers is very much about being in high school, I guess, more so. But Donnie Darko, I don't really get the comparison there.
Next.
Last one. This name sounds the most made up. Kirk Honeycutt from The Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, of course.
One of the movie's achievements is persuading the audience to stay firmly in Katie's camp during her odyssey of self-discovery. And it does. She's our protagonist the whole time. And even once we're seeing her go astray, we are with her the whole time.
Yeah, totally.
Couple letterbox reviews. This one from Denise. The plot twist when Regina put her own picture in the burn book. Ugh, Fight Club could never.
Truly.
Kara, Mean Girls. God, I am so sorry, Regina. Really, I don't know why I did this. I guess it's probably because I've got a big lesbian crush on you. Suck on that. Citizen Kane? No lesbian references. You decide what the better film is.
I love that.
From Liam F. Find yourself someone who loves you the same way the bus drivers in this film love speeding in school zones.
Amazing.
And last one from Adam Bolt. My teacher made us watch this in psychology class. Why the fuck did my teacher make us watch this in psychology class? I do think there's interesting psychological stuff here about peer pressure and about being a follower or being in a clique.
Yeah, I agree.
I could see it. The movie was directed by Mark Waters, who also directed He's All That, Freaky Friday, and Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Amazing.
Screenplay was by Tina Fey, who's also written 30 Rock, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and Saturday Night Live. This was her first feature film. The movie stars Lindsay Lohan as Katie Heron, who you may know from Freaky Friday, The Parent Trap, and, of course, Don't Hit Me With Fish, Georgia Rule.
Thank you.
Rachel McAdams as Regina George, you might know from The Notebook, Game Night, and Red Eye. Lacey Chabert as Gretchen Wieners, who you may know from the Wedding Veil movies, and she was Eliza Thornberry in The Wild Thornberrys. Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
She was also the voice of Meg in Family Guy in season 1.
Yes, she was.
Amanda Seyfried as Karen Smith, who you may know from Mamma Mia and Jennifer's Body. Lizzie Kaplan as Janice Ian, who you may know from Cloverfield and Castle Rock. And also Tina Fey, Tim Meadows, Amy Poehler, Anna Gasteyer, Neil Flynn, Jonathan Bennett, and Daniel Franzese. I just felt like I had to mention all those names of people who do have a big role in this movie, but we don't have time to list everyone who's been in everything.
Yeah, I agreed.
So, fun facts. Initially, Lindsay Lohan was cast as Regina, but decided to play the nice girl so the public would not base her real personality on Regina's. Rachel McAdams was chosen to play Mean Girl Regina George because only nice girls can play mean girls, according to the producer. Which I feel like I saw that, but I also feel like I saw said on the behind the scenes type of stuff that it was really behind the scenes. She originally wanted to be Regina George, but they didn't feel like she could fit that image that well as a performer, that audiences couldn't see her that way.
Yeah.
Damien's line, "I want my pink shirt back," was improvised by the actor Daniel Franzese.
Love that.
Although they play mother and daughter in the film, Amy Poehler is only 7 years older than Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
she was old in that movie.
Rachel McAdams was 26 years old. She was 8 years older than Lindsay Lohan.
Wow.
So by that logic, Lindsay Lohan could be Amy Poehler's granddaughter.
Yeah.
This was Amanda Seyfried's first film role. Okay, allegedly, Scarlett Johansson tested for the role of Karen Smith. Ashley Tisdale auditioned for Karen Smith, and Blake Lively was also almost cast as Karen. The role of Katie was originally offered. I don't believe this one at all. So this is another one. Take it with a grain of salt. Katie Heron was originally offered to Hilary Duff, but she declined because she was shooting cheaper by the dozen.
I have heard that too.
Yeah, that doesn't seem true to me, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been terrible, but...
Katie gets very excited at the dance when she actually recognizes one of the songs being played. That song is Built This Way, which is performed and co-written by London-born singer-songwriter and DJ Samantha Ronson. About 4 years after the release of the movie, Lindsay Lohan and Samantha Ronson were in a romantic relationship.
Yes, I did know that.
Also, I had no idea until basically I heard this in the trivia and behind the scenes that Rachel McAdams is wearing a wig the entire time in this movie.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I never realized
she
that.
is brunette in real life, though.
Yes, it blew my mind, though.
Yeah, that is crazy. I didn't know that.
That's all the facts I got.
All right, well, then I guess it's time to go to the verdicts.
Let's see if we're mean.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
All right, Dill, this is my movie, and I've already said I think it's my favorite. I often call Ferris Bueller's Day Off my favorite movie, but I think I like this movie more than that. I think it is a perfect film. I wouldn't touch a single thing. I'm so glad that any sequel was a straight to DVD. I'm glad that the musical movie didn't really tarnish it. We've really managed to, as a culture, preserve this film. I think all of the outdated culture references, if there even are any, are totally should be completely preserved. I think some of the language in the movie that maybe we wouldn't use today should be completely preserved. I think it is perfect. I wouldn't change a frame. And if this isn't a movie to watch before you die, also straight to the chair.
I would say I agree with you that there's quite a bit, not quite a bit of language, but there's probably 4 to 6 times where it's either the R word or an N word, which is only one time with the N word, but there's a few
And
R words
it's
that
they don't say it, they just write it, and it's hilarious.
it's still it shouldn't be there, but I think it's of its time in that sense. I do think there's also corrections, which I didn't see the 2024 musical, but I saw like one clip comparison where it was Janice's character talking about Regina. And very importantly, Janice refers to Regina as a scum-sucking road whore in the 2004 movie. And apparently in the 2024 movie, I guess because it's for high schoolers, they refuse to say that. And she calls her a scum-sucking life ruiner. And I do think the language is important because you know what teenagers would definitely call people a lot? Sluts and whores. Because it's definitely a
Yes.
thing that every teenager was saying at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, Gab, it's hard for me to even keep you on the edge of your seat here because I think this is so obviously a movie to watch before you die.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
Agreed.
with my next pick, I'm gonna have to go with something super, super obvious as well. So I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. But yeah,
Okay.
this is, it is a cult classic, and I think it's, one of the movies that has stood the test of time the most of the 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that anytime you watch it, even if you think, because I hesitated to do this one, I was in the mood to watch it, which is why I picked it. But I was like, oh, this is like hopefully not something that I regret. Like, I hope it doesn't feel overdone. But I was like, no, it's even better than I remember it being.
I still think that I think it's fortunate that I hadn't watched it in a couple of years because I still feel like even now that I was like I could recite it and know all the quotes. I still think though, if you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't have listened this far in because we definitely spoiled a lot for you. But I think you should watch this movie. I It is hilarious. It is from start to finish really funny. And I'm sure there was a part of me that I didn't see this in theaters. I think I was probably 13 when I saw this or whatever. That was like, is this going to be a girl movie? And while girls are the main feature, anybody can watch this movie and crack up.
It's so
You know what I
good.
mean? I think that this is, if the movie's throwing out 100 jokes, like 98 of them land. And the two that didn't land are
You
gone
were in
so
the bathroom.
quickly that it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
You missed it. You didn't hear it correctly.
Gav's like, all of them land. How dare you?
Every last one. All right, Dylan, say the things we say.
All right. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you want to send us an email, you can send it at movies to watch before you die at gmail.com. If you want to send in a voice message, you can send it at anchor.fm/movies to watch. We have below in the description the link tree for our friends in the Hall of Pods Podcasting Network. We also have our link tree, and we also have our brand new shop, which, you could, if you're one of the few people who listen to this podcast and you're like, hey, I want a shirt for this podcast. That's now a thing you can get.
You can just have one.
I don't know about that. Some child had to knit these shirts. I regret saying that already. But there's also now a shirt that you can correctly have a shirt that says Gab is always wrong.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
can have a shirt incorrectly that says Dylan is nope. I don't know.
No, you had it right. Continue.
No.
Yeah, so we've got that going for us now, which is great. And
Pretty
I think that's all the end things we say now. And you know what? I think I already have my pick for next week, so I'm gonna say it.
Say it.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're watching Rocky.
Oh my God, but I've gone 32 years without seeing it.
Too bad, motherfucker.
Isn't it long?
No, not at all. The first one? Definitely not. In fact, I'm gonna look that up right now. Hang on.
Okay, hurry up though, because I'm
I'm
really
leaving the
hungry.
people in suspense. Rocky is just under 2 hours, so pretty normal.
Okay. All right.
Gab's like,
Fine.
I'm sorry, it's a minute over an hour 45. I'm gonna hate it.
Yeah, sorry. You've already lost points with me, but okay. No, I'm excited. It's about time.
Yeah, and if this goes well, I may just start throwing Rocky sequels out there like they're candy.
Thank you for listening. Send us your thoughts and peace out.
Let us know if you thought this episode was fetch.
You want to do something fun? You want to go to Taco Bell?
I can't go to Taco Bell. I'm on an all-carb diet. God, Karen, you are so stupid.
You're not stupid, Karen. No, I am actually.